Oof. Ooh, that's how it always starts. Dear listener, welcome to the Flick Lab.
Holy fucking shit, it's a dinosaur. Jesus fucking Christ. Oh my fucking god, look a dinosaur.
Why do I have to always come up with the intros?
This is precisely the why. You are the intro guy.
Yeah.
You're the intro guy. I'm the introverted guy.
I was just about to say that I'm the introverted guy who's doing the intros. So what could go wrong? Podcasting, we'll find a way though. So, okay, I'm done with the stupid ideas for the intros. But hello. I'm Karri. If you have never tuned in, studied media. Now I'm working in IT in Poland. We're both movie freaks. My co-host is Henrik and studies art.
And I'm already putting it out. If the introductory text for this episode in our Facebook page is gonna go like the episode 65 years in the making, I'm fucking quitting.
No worries. I'm not that lame, am I? Okay. I feel like I'm never ready, Henrik, doing these episodes. Like, when it comes to Jurassic Park, it's like quite of a dinosauric amount of work that you have to do if you want to do everything proper. I mean, I think we should take like 6 months off and then return with the episode. But hey, that's how it is. We're gonna talk a little bit about DNA, I suppose. We're gonna talk about the dinos that feature in the film, filming techniques and all that in our scene by scene, which makes the biggest chunk of our show, which we will move into once we stop this intro stuff. And then we end the show with what we call the quickies, which end up being the longies usually, where we discuss the individual parts of the film in detail and what we thought about them.
Yeah, because that's how quick categories typically work.
Well, Henrik, how did you come about seeing this film? When did you first see it? Was it your first time seeing Jurassic Park?
No, I originally saw the film when I was something like, I guess 8. My dad took me to see the film.
God
Just
damn,
when it
Dad.
came out, actually.
Great dad. Greetings to Henrik's dad.
Yeah, the CGI of the times was all the rave, and basically everybody was queuing into the theaters just to see how realistic are the most realistic dinosaurs ever.
For me, it was a little bit of a different story, and I'm so going to get roasted by you for this. Anyway, it goes like this. My uncle went to the video store at the time. He came all excited to my grandmother's place where he was living at the time, and I was temporarily living there at the time, and I was playing video games. My uncle comes to me like, Karri, I have a great freaking movie here. We have to watch this. And I'm like, yeah, I'm playing Sonic 3 now. And then I just keep playing this 4th level of the game with these ping pong things in the sky, and I'm so excited because I was renting this Sonic 3 and I was so taken by the graphics and wow, what an experience. And then he keeps on insisting that we pop this film on. Well, like, let's just try. Let's see what happens. Maybe you like it. I'm like, okay. Then we put it on, and we're watching the scene where they're pushing the Velociraptor box into the cage, right, in the beginning of the film. And the people get injured there. And at that point, I'm like, this movie sucks. Put it away. I want to play Sonic 3. And he's visibly so annoyed, so pissed he could kill me at that moment. And yeah, I just continued playing Sonic 3, not feeling sorry for it.
Yeah, I take it that you had never, ever before that heard of the hack director Steven Spielberg?
It could be that I had seen Indiana Jones, but I was also at the time like 7, 8. All right. We have something very exciting here besides Steven Spielberg as well. We have Dean Cundy returning to the show. I'm not sure if we have touched on Dean Cundy since the Halloween 1, Halloween 2 times, so welcome Dean Cundy. Glad to have you back. One of the most successful cinematographers in the business. Henrik, what do you know about dinosaurs?
Not that much, actually.
Same here. I was never really like a dino enthusiast, even as a kid, although I was endlessly fascinated about the history and how they were and how they lived, but I didn't know what was a Brachiosaurus or Dilophosaurus or something like that. In this film, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different dinos. Of course, this expands crazily in the sequels. What do you think about the sequels, Henrik? Let's talk about the sequels a little bit. Did any of those tickle your fancy?
Not particularly, no. Like I didn't really feel that there is anything that much to touch upon on the sequels. I do know that today's episode is a listener request.
Yeah.
And on that note, the request was for the Jurassic Park movies in plural, meaning that the rest of the franchise, I guess, is expected from us also. So, and on that regard, if you are going to stay true to that request, I guess we have to go through the sequels at some point, but the sequels altogether are kind of like even Spielberg himself couldn't completely return to his roots or return to how magnificent film the original Jurassic Park was. The Lost World Jurassic Park was, in my opinion, very much the lackluster product. The third one maybe is better than its reputation, and then the Jurassic World films are, in my opinion, kind of a sleepwalking experience.
Something like that. It's exactly like you said, that even Steven Spielberg couldn't be quite on form for The Lost World. It's definitely, I would say, the best out of all of the sequels, but it falls pretty quickly for these ham-fisted ideas on how to put the characters back into the locations of Isla Sorna or these different islands. And it just looks like exactly ham-fisted. For example, the appearance of the child of Ian Malcolm. Is it this black child that appears in the island?
Yeah, the daughter character, and also I guess his on off girlfriend or whatever it was that Julianne Moore was supposed to be in the film.
And in the third one, it is again a very ham-fisted idea to get Sam Neill back to the island in the third one, basically risking his life all over again.
I always felt that the third film is kind of the most honest of the sequels. Like at least say what you will about the third one. It in many regards it is kind of a B movie trash. The film in general, but the film itself, in my opinion, kind of acknowledges this, and it is honest about the fact that it's B movie and it's not on par with the original. Lost World and the Jurassic World films, they all I see them as movies that all have this misconception that they are true sequels and they are on the same level as the first Jurassic Park, and that I kind of feel is a misstep from the sequels since they can't achieve that level of quality. And something that is, in my opinion, really interesting in Jurassic Park films, the first of the Jurassic World films, where the closing notion of this movie's ending, the T-Rex coming in and saving the heroes at the nick of time from the face of peril. That's kind of a that is one of the key scenes that is recycled from one film to the next. that there is a T-Rex to the rescue scene in Jurassic Park 3, where where it looks like kind of a like they just ran out of ideas. So that happens there. And then in Jurassic World, there is I guess it's some kind of a misconceived idea of paying tribute to the original Jurassic Park, where they also, recycle the whole plot point. And well, once again, it's the final conflict of the film, the final peril that the heroes face in Jurassic World is once again solved by magically appearing the T-Rex.
What I liked about Jurassic Park 3 is that it covers all the key elements that were not used before from the original Michael Crichton book. So there's a lot of scenes that they were finding in the original source material, and I think at that point it was kind of exhausted, at least on the part of the first novel, Jurassic Park. Then there's of course the Lost World, the continuation for that.
Yeah, it's kind of the case that if you kind of take all the first 3 Jurassic Park films, then you get kind of a manhandedly all the scenes and plot elements from the first book.
We can talk more in detail about the sequels in the sequel episodes if we ever decide to do them. I was not prepared to do any sequel episodes because, well, we could as well. It's funny how we have started to cover a lot of movies that are part of some huge franchises like Terminator, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, and so many more.
It's almost like you have a problem, man.
Or it's almost like we are looking into films that are super popular and we are respecting the listeners' wishes. So here goes again. But anything to add before scene by scene?
No, let's just head straight into the movie. Okay, so the film, and at the same time also Steven Spielberg's weird lens flare fetish, which is really in your face throughout the movie, opens with the first, is this like second or third Velociraptor? Anyways, with Velociraptor coming to the park, and the first kind of accident that they have when it comes to the park and the safety. Basically, they bring up the crate that holds one of the Velociraptors in it, and the things go immediately haywire. They open the crate, and the Velociraptor goes wild, knocking the crate back and knocking the guy holding the container door open out of his balance, and the dude becomes dinosaur chow immediately. And that's kind of first notion that the film gives you when it comes to the whole notion how Hammond never spared any expense when it came to designing and building his park, because I kind of always was wondering, was there really any at all better and more safer way to actually bring the dinosaurs into the park than use the ring-dingy containers or the steel crates, which you can't even lock in your place before you start opening them?
Best structural engineers in the world, right there.
Yeah. Who can't even operate a goddamn forklift, which they obviously have to bring, to bring the crate or the container inside the park premises before starting to open it. It also kind of begs the question, how in the nine hells did they ever manage to get the larger specimens, like for example the goddamn T-Rex, into the park? Because the whole gateway or the doorway which they use here on this docking bay is actually smaller than the actual T-Rex. So what size of a crate did they use for T-Rex? How many guys were needed to actually open the door on that crate? How come T-Rex did not just, burst through the gateway here?
Okay. In the original source material in the book, it says that the dinosaurs, at least some of them, do grow up into full size in 2 to 4 years or something like that. That started to make me wonder that it was probably made so that They were first like baby size when they were pushed into the park, and they just kept growing there for several years during the development of new dino DNA and construction of the park.
Yeah, and in the film's defense, the main kind of a wildlife expert that they have, Muldoon, who is the experienced hunter of the group, he does make the notion that the animals inside the park reach maturity or they keep growing until for 8 months. Kind of also lending some weight to the notion that they are brought into the park as babies. But once again, I do ask you to pay close eye on the velociraptor that they now have caged in the opening of the film, because by jolly, that specimen actually does look like awfully lot like an adult velociraptor that we later on see in the film. Like it looks to be the exact same size as they are for the rest of the movie when they are supposed to be, I guess, adults or
Yeah.
at least fully grown. Which once again kind of gives you the implication that they are bringing fully grown dinosaurs from the site B to now the park premises.
But I don't think it was mentioned anywhere that these are babies here, right?
I'm well, no, not specifically. Like there is kind of there is a notion made. I don't remember, was it Grant or Sattler who asks Mudon how long do they grow? How long do the dinosaurs grow? And Mudon makes the remark that it's, if I remember correctly, makes the remark that it's 8 months. But
Yeah.
like you said, he doesn't outright state where they do the growing, like where, and doesn't make a statement regarding on how old the dinosaurs are when they are being brought into the Jurassic Park premises.
And the beginning of the book is completely different than in the film. It starts off with roughly, let's say, maybe 50 pages of kind of an introductory part where actually a family goes to a beach for lunch, which is kind of the beginning of The Lost World, where they used that part of the material.
Kinda, yeah. Then again, the second chapter of the book, which has the injured park worker being brought into the ER, and the doctor is kind of trying to study the wounds and makes the remark that this looks like that she can't actually make the connection what kind of animal would have caused these wounds. And there is the shady park worker who tries to spin the story that it was some kind of was it a machinery accident?
Yeah, there is some is it like a claim that the guy has maybe fallen from great heights? Anyway, something that is not made by an animal at all.
Yeah, that's basically that's a scene that doesn't happen in any of the Jurassic Park films.
Yeah, that's true. And I quite like that opening. Anyway, there is also this girl who gets bitten, and then it turns out that there is several cases of small, like infants and little people, little girls and boys getting bitten by the same kind of an animal, which turns out to be a dinosaur. One of these, what they call compties, I believe. And there is this one woman working at the clinic who makes the observation that this looks like a sketch of a dinosaur that the girl had drawn up from the incident. And then it cuts to Alan Grant and Ellie having a guest, Bob Morris from the EPA, to their excavation site at Snakewater. So this is something similar that is in the film. But there is a lot of small and then not so small differences throughout the film. But I think the core of the book is very much in the film. There are some different people who die, some people don't die. And in the case of this scene at the excavation site, John Hammond doesn't visit himself this place at this moment. He simply gives a phone call and then coaxes Ellie and Jesus. Not Jesus, but Sam Neill to come to the location of the island.
Yeah, maybe the most notable difference between the book and the film is all the characters and the character traits, which for the most part appears to have been changed for the film. And at some points, the character arcs that are given to the characters of the film, I don't actually know why the changes were made. Like in the book, Grant is very open to kids, and kind of even admires that kids can be as fascinated about dinosaurs as he is.
Yeah.
Contrast that to the Grant in film, where Grant can't stand kids, and his emotional story arc kind of comes down to the grumpy researcher becoming open to children and
Yeah.
hinting to the possibility that after the credits roll, maybe he and Ellie, who are not a pair in the book,
Right.
but are simply colleagues. Well, in the film's universe, it's been hinted that maybe they will later on start a family and have children of their own. Now that Grant has softened up to kids, and that I kind of felt was maybe kind of a baffling change when it came to character motives.
Okay, for me, this stood out as a kind of an excellent decision in the film to change it up like that. Like,
I don't know. I just saw it as a cliche.
or maybe a cliche, but it, like you said, it does give a story arc. So
It
it gives Grant a
it
little bit more,
does.
something to develop during the film.
My take was that it simply gave Grant more your typical Steven Spielberg flavor.
Mm,
Like Spielberg is very much about home, about family, and the family unit, and he at times is that even at the expense of the kind of a more pragmatic scientist, deep thought character arcs, and that's kind of something that I felt that where the book, and more so maybe the sequel book Lost World, differs from the film, that the way how in the books the characters are more kind of a logic and science driven, and they more are simply friends because of science, and they have more just dedicated their lives to science. And in the films it becomes more and more about once again a romantic connection and the family unit and forming a family. It kind of does tie Grant's I have to grow to respect kids. It does partly tie in with the movie's theme with the dinosaurs, and also the dinosaurs finding a way to change themselves to also form family units. And it kind of parallels also how Grant emotionally changes through in the course of the film, and maybe later on forms a family unit. So there is kind of a thematical connection, but I wasn't wild about the film Grant's story arc.
well, it's kind of some things I really prefer from the book, and then some things I really prefer from the film. Something that I really strongly felt that wasn't fitting for maybe the majesticity or the mysticity of T-Rex was what happened in the book. Okay, granted, I understand it was happening during nighttime when they found this little boat and they started to stroll around the island to find the reception again. Okay, but the T-Rex goes swimming in the waters during this scene, and I thought this would not translate well into film.
Yeah, that maybe was a scene that I also wasn't missing when I
Yeah.
watched the film.
Okay, what was the next scene? I believe it's
I guess that would be the introductory of the asshole lawyer that we have.
ah
Yeah, the really fucking weird amber digging operation that is going on, which I also never managed to understand. when I originally saw the film. Like once again, staying true to the character differences between the film and the book, the lawyer character of the story, Gennaro, who presents the investors in Hammond's Park, who now have become worried because due to the accidents that have happened around the park, and have asked Gennaro to kind of evaluate or organize an evaluation of the safety of the park. In the film, Gennaro is completely greed-driven shitbag who leaves kids to be eaten by T-Rexes and in the end dies somewhat comedically. That's a huge difference to the Gennaro that we have in the book, where he actually is still greedy, granted, but he is also at times rather heroic and considerate, and actually even takes part in some of the rescue attempts and attempts to contain the situation in the park and stop the crisis.
Whereas, for example, the character of Hammond in the book is not actually the sweet little grandfather that we see in the film. He's more like business oriented. He just wants whatever happens, he wants this park to happen, which is kind of to a degree also happening here and in the Lost World. You can argue that, but I feel that this Hammond in the film cares about his grandchildren, at least.
Way more. In the book, Hammond is kind of denying that anything is wrong, even after the dinosaurs have broken out and his grandkids are missing. And Hammond is basically all about denying any responsibility and denying any fault in the park concept. Whereas in the film, Hammond is kind of a more this overly visionary but still good-hearted entertainer who is all about showing the opening and showing this miracle to basically everyone, because in here Hammond also makes the notion that Jurassic Park is and never was meant for only the super rich, but it's for absolutely everybody to enjoy. But with Gennaro's introduction here, then another thing that always have bugged my mind, and this is a major plot point for the film, is the whole amber digging operation and the whole mosquito thing, which the film now introduces to you.
Yeah, well, it's the backbone of the book and the film.
It is backbone of the book and the film. But here's the gist. First of all, you could kind of question if the blood inside the mosquito really would have fossilized the way that you could actually still use it to clone your goddamn dinosaurs. But more than that, it does kind of beg the question that exactly how many mosquitoes are there in the end? Because the way how the film actually frames the whole mosquito thing and uses the cinematic language, it does highlight this one mosquito that they are now digging up. And even though I don't guess that's the case in the film, but the way how the scene is framed, the way how the kind of the film language works, it heavily implies that the mosquito that they now find, it's the same goddamn mosquito that Hammond later on has on the end of his stick. And that would, I guess, be the mosquito that they also use for cloning. Like, technically it can't be, because this is very late into the proceedings. The cloning operation has already been done. The dinosaurs are already ready. The park is already being built. So time frame wise, they have had to find some mosquitoes somewhere where they have been able to get the dinosaur DNA. But once again, the film language kind of frames the whole situation differently.
How I logically justified this was that, I understood that the park was already made because it must have been made already at this point, so it's during the same time cycle as the rest of the film. But maybe these mosquitoes that they find inside the amber they are not in very big supply. So they have now found one. They are moderately excited about it, but it's not something that is now happening for the first time or anything like that.
Yeah, but if they are not in big supply, then you kind of have to ask, how the fuck did they find all the mosquitoes? Because kind of from one mosquito, if the blood really has fossilized in a way that you can actually reuse it 65 million years later. Well, even in that case, the kind of one mosquito could give you one dinosaur DNA strain. So from one mosquito, they could get something like, I don't know, T-Rex or Velociraptor or you name it. But the park has several different dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm.
So how many mosquitoes have they found, or have they just found just one mosquito that managed to bite every single marketable dinosaur?
Yeah, this is just more interesting cinematically to show it in this way. What it shows in the book is that it appears that InGen is one of the, if not the biggest buyer of amber in the world. So I just picture in my mind that some kind of a huge storage room where there's tons of amber, and then there's somebody like Dr. Wu who is going through those for 4 or 5 years and every now and then finding some bits and pieces of DNA and connecting it with some random DNA and getting actually some results, which of course doesn't happen in real life. Also, to add to the preservation of the DNA, it appears that the DNA at the best case scenarios can, if properly stored, survive for maybe 1, maybe 2 million years, but 65 million years is a little bit stretching it.
Yeah, but InGen with its storage space filled with millions of tons of amber. Like amber digging, let me tell everyone who's listening, amber digging is the growth industry of tomorrow. Like there's billions to be done in amber mining.
And this scene, it reminds me of Indiana Jones films. Well, they go to the top.
It does.
I think it's John Williams plus that they go into the cave, and then you have this piece of amber that actually, when you start to think about it, the color is very similar to the statue that you see in the beginning of Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's just the connection that I make there.
Yeah. Also, there is once again a lot of the same cinematography.
Yeah.
In way how the scene's main character picks up something that's really important. Everybody gathers around the important object, and the camera slowly zooms into an extreme close-up of the important object. Also, partly, I would say even the Dick Leader's clothing is kind of a reminiscent of Indiana Jones films. Like not 1-to-1, but there's also the plain white shirt and the kind of a graphy appear that he has,
And the jungle in general, and Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, jungle in general. So I saw a lot of Indiana Jones in the Amber Dig.
But then we get to the excavation, right?
Then we get to the excavation.
Yeah, it goes more or less like it is in the source material, but here everything is made more quicker, and of course Hammond comes himself to the location with the helicopter and ruins up the whole excavation of Velociraptor's remains. And we learn that Mr. Grant, Dr. Grant, doesn't very much like computers. I can relate to that even nowadays.
As well as who he also hates with a passion, to a point where he is actually willing to threaten and I guess traumatize one kid by showing him something that the kid would never actually believe he would see in a dig site that uncovers dinosaur bones. And that is a dinosaur bone.
But the performance of the kid never convinced me. He first shows this very surprised face, which just doesn't seem natural for me, and then it continues with less dramatic faces, and it just doesn't work for me.
Yeah. The kid tries to act scared, but all he looks like is disinterested.
Yeah, why would you be scared of something that anyway died 65 million years ago?
Yeah, kinda, yeah. I mean, the only situation where you would have to be scared something like that would be if the weird, crazy rich man would come on with his personal helicopter to take you on his fantasy island where he has been cloning those dinosaurs.
Exactly. Should have taken that kid on board.
They could have used him as a distraction for the velociraptors.
I pay attention to weird things, I guess, but, well, it's not the first time in this podcast. Hammond, he's supposed to be somebody from England, I suppose, because he uses some of these British pronunciations and he actually corrects himself, at least on 2 occasions. Here it's when he says schedule instead of schedule, which is the American pronunciation. He does that, and then later in the film he says merry-go-round and, oh, sorry, carousel. That's funny.
I never picked up on that.
Yeah.
But he is 100% right on the notion that babies do smell. So kudos for that.
Yeah, baby smell.
And something that which is kind of interesting on the dig site scene, and this was also a huge fucking thing behind the scenes of the film, is the notion which is being raised here, which is that the dinosaurs were more close to birds than they were reptiles,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of a funny. Since in the scene where the notion is made, everybody is kind of laughing at Grant and thinking that the dude simply can't be right. And well, then you come into today, and what do you know, that the science collective is kind of unified in the vision that dinosaurs really were more closer to birds than lizards. And this also was a big deal behind the scenes of the film, where they actually were consulting a world famous dinosaur expert who also went toe to toe with the production crew and with the visual effects crew to preserve the notion that the dinosaurs in the film should act and in subtle ways appear to be more bird-like than actually lizard-like.
Regardless of having a world-famous paleontologist, they couldn't get the feathers for the velociraptors, but during the time, it wasn't such of a common knowledge. So then we have the character of Nedry, who is the evil person who somehow has been so integral for the operations of Jurassic Park that he is the only person who at the end of the day can restart the systems, keep the basic functions running in case of any kinds of incidents, and is apparently also able to add some malicious code there, and which is something that they can't easily remove from the code if he decides to do that. So this was also for me a kind of a big plot hole. Like, what kind of you have world famous this, world famous that, building the park and the world's best structural engineers, but then you have one computer guy sitting on his desk doing the daga 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 daga, and he's the only person who can actually run this thing.
Yeah, he's the sole dude who is responsible for the automation of the entire goddamn park.
Yep.
Like one dude who, and the notion is never raised that Nerdry would have been some kind of a super hacker or any kind of a world famous system engineer. In fact, in the film, between through the dialogue exchanges between Nerdry and Hammond, and how basically everybody else in the park staff seems to regard Nedry, it kind of comes off like Nedry even isn't that great in system automation, and like he would have actually somehow fucked things up previously in some small capacity. So he wouldn't even be that great in his job. And still he's the sole guy whose responsibility basically the whole operation of the entirely automated park is.
Yeah, so much for the fanciness.
Yeah, spared no expense.
But we had only one coder to do the entire thing. In the book, it also expands a little bit that Nedry would have had actually a lawsuit against John Hammond, and then he would have basically lost the lawsuit, and he had to return to his desk, and tension is high. And more or less, it's the same thing here. Tensions are high. Nobody likes Nedry, poor Nedry, and he decides to give some specimens of the dinosaurs for a competing company, which I believe is not really explained in the film, that there's some other company behind it. It's just some dude who wants to have these samples.
No, the other company is kind of hinted at. Like you get the character of Dogson.
Yep.
And well, he's more prominent character in the sequel book, but makes the first appearance here. And through Dodson, you kind of get the implication that there's another company that is also interested on the dinosaur embryos, which is what they now hire Nedry to steal for them.
Yeah.
But that's basically that's all you get about anything relating to the other company, and that's also kind of the all that you get when it comes to Nedry. Like basically nothing of Nedry that was in the book has been is saved in the film. In the film, Nedry is just a slimy fat nerd who simply decides to throw away his job and steal the embryos for $1.5 million. Even though you would think that wouldn't be such of a great offer to make in this situation, because not only would Nedry lose his job, but most likely he would also merit a lawsuit for his actions in the film later on.
Right? Like, it would be probably pretty easy to track down who was gathering the samples there that night. In the book, they even notice it, that somebody has been in the lab, and it's most likely Nedry. What's the next stuff?
I guess that's the first introduction of our dinosaurs. A huge fucking CGI effects that fill the screen and basically made everybody's jaws drop wide open when the film originally came out. Like, this is the state-of-the-art stuff. And it has actually held together pretty well, even today.
Yeah, it holds up pretty well.
Yeah, the brachiosauruses that you see here, the velociraptors, most definitely the goddamn T-Rex. They all are still in pretty good shape, especially when you take into the notion that how old the film is.
And even then, you're watching this on Blu-ray, and you look at the T-Rex from different angles, and you really can't always quite tell if it's now the animatronics or is it the CGI. And of course, what contributes to that great effect is that also for dramatic purposes, but I would say also due to the technology at the time, they had to kind of conceal the T-Rex a little bit, keep it in the shadow. But that's how you do with your villains anyway. So it doesn't matter. They keep him in the shadow. He's lurking on the different sides of the car, and there's rain coming on to kind of conceal it. But it works beautifully.
Yeah, I would say that it's combination of two things that really work well in the for the effects of the film to actually holding their age. The first one is the way how Spielberg kind of shoots and frames his images in the film. He uses a lot of small elements, but individual elements to actually showcase you the mass and the size of the animals. Like he gives you one sheep against a dinosaur, or he gives you three characters standing kind of far removed from the dinosaur, and all these kind of feed you the implication that these really are massive animals. Contrast that, for example, some of the later Jurassic Park sequels, which have like from 3 to 5 cars next to a dinosaur, and also a building,
Yeah.
and also close-ups on the human characters, which all kind of muddy the water. They give you more pointers on exactly what is the actual size of the dinosaur, and the extreme close-ups. They kind of they make even make the human characters appear bigger, and in contrast, making the dinosaurs, which are supposed to be huge fucking things, appear smaller than they are supposed to be. So that's the first thing, and the second, like you mentioned, is the clever use of animatronics and the CGI, and some of the more clever sequences where they switch from the animatronic to the CGI, with something where we get a real great example on the nighttime T-Rex attack scene.
Yeah, this is a graceful interpretation. This is also the first time that we see something like this, dinosaurs on film, at least in the level of what these type of effects, this level of effects. So it will automatically give this special meaning, and it shows, I think, in the performances and how the music goes. It's the first time experience. But The Lost World is basically the aliens of the Jurassic Park series. There's more violence, more villains, more of the monsters, and it's starting to be like this bugs, like this infestation of creatures against humans and their guns. No, it's not anymore that kind of a personal relationship that you have in the first one with T-Rex.
Yeah, in Lost World, you even have what kinda is a military squadron stacked against the creatures.
Yeah.
And even more so in Jurassic World, which has an actual military squadron stacked against the dinosaurs.
Funny also seeing how many people have died in the beginning of the film, and the Costa Rican government basically not caring about any of that. Well, then the InGen did a hell of a lot of work to make it appear so that these were not any kind of suspicious, genetically modified or other interesting creatures that we should maybe look into responsible for these attacks. But then again, at the end of the book, well, I guess we're going to go full spoiler here, so just for your information, I'm going to spoil the book as well. But at the end of the book, the Costa Rican government will bomb the shit out of the Isla Sorna. So that's when they take the action. All right, then they take the little laboratory ride, and they watch the Mr. DNA video, where it's very clearly explained that this is how you make dinosaurs. You get 65 million year old DNA from a mosquito, and then you combine that DNA with the frog DNA or some other DNA. In the film, it's only mentioned as frog DNA that is used as the replacement for the missing blocks in the DNA chain. After this, they go to the lab. I just gotta wonder, Henrik, there's 2 kids in this film, in the lab. I don't think they have signed any non-disclosure agreements, and if they have, I don't think that would really work. Just saying.
Yeah, but then again, they are Hammond's grandkids, so
Yeah.
I don't know. The movie doesn't even tell you where the kids live. Like all we know, they may actually be held as captives in the park premises by Hammond. But the whole DNA clonage thing, which is now given to you. Kudos to the film. The notion has to be made that the film is extremely vague in any explanation on how the cloning works. Like how much frog DNA they use, how much they got from the mosquito, what DNA engineering they are actually doing. None of that is ever explained, which kind of helps the film to survive through this survive through this notion, because using the frog DNA, and this was actually something that the scientific community was interested in researching into following the release of the film, but essentially dinosaurs and the frogs, when it comes to DNA scale, they are kind of far removed from each other to a point where, once again, this is something where you can't be 100% certain because the film is really vague in explaining the cloning process. But
Are you saying that you didn't become a molecular scientist to speak on this podcast episode?
I consulted an actual biologist
Mm.
to ask how this would go, and the take was that, well, that really shouldn't be possible. Like at least not outright, at least not in grand scale. Or you can't simply take some dinosaur blood and then take the frog DNA and just combine the two and boom, have a dinosaur. Maybe some DNA alteration could be done. Maybe some corrections could be done, but you couldn't outright clone a dinosaur using a frog DNA. But like mentioned, this is something that the film never dives that deep into, and because of that, it's hard to outright debunk it. Like you can't say that the that the notion that the film makes is 100% bullshit and it would never work in any capacity because the film never actually really explains to you what the fuck they are doing.
Yeah, because the other option would have probably been how to do this film would have been that the characters would have been in this auditorium watching the DNA video, and then Grant would approach Hammond a little bit closer and then be like, psst, psst, Hammond, like, so how does this actually work? Like, how does the molecular blueprint become something of a T-Rex variety when you're combining it with the frog DNA, and how do the amino acids and proteins and blah 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 do this thing, and what are you actually doing in the lab? Are you combining this 80 different kinds of genes together? How does it work? And then Hammond would just go like, and then it would cut to the credits.
But kudos for Hammond for creating the whole video presentation, which is completely dependable on him being present when the video is played out and reading his own lines. Because if Hammond, and that kind of ties Hammond down to with his own presentation, Hammond has to be present in every single screening of that video or the whole video. I'm here talking back to the video me. Gist of it would completely fall apart. So in that sense, Hammond has just spent billions of dollars and the latest in high tech just to become a customer service worker. Because I guess working at McDonald's just wouldn't have been sparing the expense.
This is what I could not also understand. Like, is he really prepared to be there for every goddamn tourist group? Admittedly, maybe very rich tourist people in the beginning, but still.
Well, it looks like that. It does really look like that. Granted, the park isn't completely ready. Hammond makes the notion about this himself also. He makes the notion that there's going to be more rides and they are going to make change, for example, the soundtrack, which is supposed to play in the background of the presentation.
Right. They have still ample time to clone John Hammond for the show.
Yeah. They take a sip of Hammond's blood and then fuse it with frog DNA. Yeah.
Henrik, look, it's an interactive CD-ROM. There are some lines that just get so dated.
The latest in technology. My God.
Oh, yeah, it was hot stuff back then. And
yeah, and even back then the interactive CD-ROMs worked like shit.
Especially if it's going to be something like it's going to be switching these CDs inside the car, and then, what could go wrong? Okay.
Well, Hammond did spare no expense.
Oh, right. I keep forgetting that. Some reason.
Well, lucky you. Hammond keeps reminding you of.
Actually, when it comes to this legendary line, it's uttered by somebody else, some other worker at the park. It's not said by John Hammond in the book, and I'm not sure if it even repeats, but the movie makes it a repeating line.
Yeah, it kind of makes it Hammond's catchphrase.
Yeah, good job. I like that. And yeah, they start the car ride. See, here we see the Grant's character not digging children at all. Puts Tim in the other car, who keeps talking behind the glass for some reason. And then they start the tour. Well, they pass through a lot of these fences, where they're supposed to hold dinosaurs, but they don't really see any. Okay, so the whole structuring of the tour, it goes in completely different order pretty much in the book. Well, in the book, they see a lot of dinosaurs, but many of them are standing still, so they don't really get the proper experience that they're looking for. And Lex is getting bored out of her mind. And they see Tyrannosaurus Rex, and then they continue doing something else in the park. Is it that they're going to go on the side and look at this injured or the sick dinosaurs, which is a different kind of dinosaurs in the book, but they do that anyway. And then they return somewhere along the lines back to the Tyrannosaurus Rex. So the movie, I feel, manages to do the whole dramatic build-up way better here, in a way, because it's much more effective when you see the T-Rex for the first time when he's starting to do his menacing. And in the book, it's kind of it's giving you dinos, and then it's giving you the best dino, and then it goes to less interesting dino, and then back to the main dino, T-Rex.
Yeah, the film does build up the T-Rex pretty well. Another part which I felt it didn't play up that well, it was the storm which is now approaching the island. This is something that is mostly touched upon between the I guess pre-recorded video conversation that Dirty has with the boat captain. Like I had no fucking clue what that was supposed to be. Like it plays out like it's I guess a video call,
Yeah.
like a Skype call, even though it doesn't look like they actually have the technology to make a Skype call.
Well, it looks
And
like somehow Nedry has some access to some security camera, and for some reason it's extremely important to see the guy there on the phone booth.
Yeah, and what makes the scenes even more worse is the fact that you can actually see that it's pre-recorded video, which is simply playing in Windows Media Player. Like they couldn't spare the expense to crop the image so that you wouldn't see the time passing bar at the lower end of the player.
Oh yeah, I didn't notice it this time around, but I remember this.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's the magic of interactive CD-ROMs for you.
But but let's talk about the character of Malcolm. I really love the character of Malcolm, which is basically the character of Jeff Goldblum. And he's like the comedic relief of the film. He has a lot of great jokes in the car and outside of the car. Also, to a lesser extent, Grant, but Jeff Goldblum. I guess I just really love this guy anywhere he appears. Great guy.
Yeah. The character of Malcolm is a great character. Jeff Goldblum makes a good work playing the character. Something that maybe hurts the performance a bit in retrospect is the fact that after Jurassic Park, Jeff Goldblum kind of fell in love with this portrayal of character, and he simply just kind of did the same thing in something like for the next 10 to 15 years. And it became really goddamn irritating.
Okay.
Goldblum has dropped this one later on. Like he hit the low peak of his career where he just appeared in some no-face movies. He's now resurfacing back into the AA game in Hollywood-wise, And apparently the whole stitch has been dropped. Thank God for that. But
Okay.
there was a time when I really couldn't stand Jeff Goldblum.
Understood. In the book, he was not such of a comedic character. Here it's amped up.
Yeah, he was even more a scientist in the book.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I like the fact that the character in the film is this kind of a playful, funny, humorous character, but also I think he knows his mathematics pretty well. Combines kind
Yeah,
of breaks maybe the illusion or what we think of as a mathematician usually.
yeah, that he does. He is like Hammond remarks in the film. He is kind of a rock star scientist.
Right, Rockstar.
And that is something that is actually is quite nice to see. I do like the fact that the scientists in the film, they are not, these scruffy hang up old guys who can't relax and can't improvise, can't do fucking anything, and simply are like science bubble, science bubble, science bubble in the most monotone voice you can depict. I'm glad that the film gives you the other scientist, the more energetic, the more kind of a more freestyling scientists.
So Nedry is now cutting off the electricity around the island so that he can go to the boat to meet the Hoxon Doxon.
Meet the captain at least. Like you never actually know who he's supposed to meet on the boat. Nedry makes the notion that Hoxton's guys better be at the boat when he arrives because the timetable is so small. Who that guy is, never mentioned, never shown.
And it's supposed to be according to the book that Nedry has very meticulously planned this whole thing out and he's supposed to know where he's going. And in the film, he has absolutely no clue where he's going.
No. In the film, he is kind of the comic buffoon
Yeah,
who even has the overtly comedical sound effect playing as he slips and falls. Like Nedry in the film is pretty much a joke.
yeah. I still have like problems understanding what the hell he's doing because he drives the car basically off this road and then he starts to cable the car and so he's going to pull the car to the lower level and then what? He's in the forest. What?
Yeah,
I have no idea what's
yeah.
going on there.
Yeah, Nedry behind the wheel is you kind of can't understand what the guy is actually trying to achieve here.
Well, it's definitely something that you can't do in 6 minutes. Or what was the original plan for him?
The original time frame was 18 minutes.
Okay, in the book I believe it's 6 minutes only.
Okay, well, whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah.
Like Nedry's timetable is so tight that I'm actually curious to see would it Nedry been able to actually hold it to keep his own timetable even if the things hadn't gone completely to shit, because he has to make it to the embryo storage area. He has to steal the embryos. He has to escape the main building. He has to pass through the fences, the electric fences, which granted have been turned off, but he has to step out of his car, push the fence doors open, get back into his car, and continue his journey. After that, he still has to reach the boat, which is
Right.
stationed somewhere in the island. So even if Nedry hadn't somehow crashed off the road, that timetable still would have been pretty damn tight, like extremely so.
Yeah, I kept wondering maybe it would have been interesting plot-wise to actually allow Nedry to get to the boat and maybe even deliver the samples to the guy and then see him coming back to the office Or maybe not succeed delivering those samples, but get back to the office and then see the consequences of what would happen to his character when they would find out these nefarious things about him.
Yup. Not to mention the fact that since Nedry now escapes, or the plan is that Nedry escapes the island, that immediately pinpoints Nedry as the culprit to everyone
Yeah.
who managed to notice that something is wrong, because it's the most simplest kind of a logical equation you have to make. Everything goes to shit. One dude mysteriously disappears. Well, who could possibly be the culprit here? So
Yeah.
basically, Nedry physically escaping the island is just Nedry physically pinpointing himself out as the one who is at fault.
He would do that in any scenario. Had he returned to the office, had he left the island right at that minute. Had I been Nedry, I would have probably just taken the boat right there and just try to keep low profile. I mean, disappear.
Had I been Nedry, I would have just swimmed out of the island.
Ooh, sharks maybe.
Well, still a better plan than what the dude actually had.
Henrik, where's the goat?
I don't know. The fucking ninja T-Rex managed to snack it without absolutely anyone noticing. And it's supposed to be a massive fucking beast that causes a vibration effect on any water surface and makes these incredibly loud boom, boom, boom noises as he wanders around.
And the goat is coming from cellars, right? Pops up with an elevator.
Yeah. I guess they are kind of raising him from below the ground to the feeding area.
Have you ever thought about like the mechanics which go to delivering the goats to the T-Rex? Is there like some kind of a train track? You put the goat on the train and then push it to the T-Rex location, and then there's like a huge line of these goats just waiting to be snatched by T-Rex, given a specific hour of the day.
Yeah, and as you're feeding the T-Rex, you just have to hope that today is the day when T-Rex is going to play it nice and make a loud entrance and show himself to the audiences instead of him being full stealth ninja operative and simply, quickly snacking the goat without anyone noticing.
Snacking the goat with such of a noise in his jawbones and eating that goat that it overruns all the other audio tracks in the film. Huge noise.
Yep. But that's the T-Rex of the Jurassic Park for you. Like at times it makes incredibly loud noises.
Yep.
And then on the next moment it's the most silent motherfucker you ever met.
Right. So the only way logically, I guess, here is that T-Rex had been sleeping next to them all along. And I suppose in a standing position, how it's described in the book, just, hibernating there, and then suddenly like, oh, hello, it's time to get rid of this pesky fence.
I always took it that the T-Rex was simply teleporting all over the park.
Oh my God, they keep milking the T-Rex so much in this film as well.
They do. But the silent, extremely stealthy, big-ass dinosaur is also, once again, it's one of the elements that the film franchise, for some odd reason, just keeps bringing back. Because basically every Jurassic Park film has the mysterious, stealthy T-Rex. The first Jurassic World movie even makes up the main plot point about a T-Rex who is once again it's a tall as a house, and still it manages to be completely sneaky.
Yeah, at one point there is no noise from his footsteps, and then there is.
Yeah. Like I can understand the active camouflage, which is which is supposed to have in Jurassic World. But how is it so goddamn quiet all the time?
I would just like to make the point, like, what was the thing in The Lost World when there's these two Tyrannosaurus Rexes that come to smash up the trailer car. And it seems that they have a kid of their own. But
Yep.
why are there two dinosaurs? Like, what kind of a relationship is this if they're supposed to reproduce on their own? I just kept thinking about this.
I'm guessing that the reproduction is simply supposed to go so that one of the two animals change their sex and the other stays as female, and then they just have wild dinosaur sex.
That's the best explanation. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they can they can switch on the fly the roles.
Yeah, like.
But when it comes to this Gallimimus scene where the T-Rex appears once again to start treating himself with the Gallimimus meal, and look how much blood. This scene, this is where it's starting to get a little bit repetitive. Like, okay, we get it that the Spielberg was like, oh my god, this looks so good that we need to introduce, or we need to have more T-Rex all around the film. Like, let's shoot this scene and this scene and this scene. This is where it's started to get a little bit, yeah, we get it. It's your main attraction here.
And that really is kind of the notion when it comes to T-Rex. Like Spielberg himself realized when he was making the film that the T-Rex is going to be the main attraction, and because of that he felt that the T-Rex had to be brought back during the course of the film.
And to his defense, at the same time I don't really mind it. I enjoy looking at T-Rex all the time.
Yeah, the T-Rex is one of the better, if not the best dinosaur of the film. Granted, he's kinda is not supposed to be, I would say, the main antagonist from the dinosaur end in Jurassic Park. That was my take is that that's supposed to go to the Velociraptors, but the T-Rex still is kind of a more grandiose, more magnificent beast than what the Velociraptors ever were. And despite the fact that the film makes a notion about the dangerous nature of the Velociraptors, it kind of repeatedly brings up how incredibly smart the Velociraptors are. And because of that, they are supposed to be kind of the most dangerous animals that the park has.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the most magnificent scenes that I've ever seen put on film, really. Like, it is so well built. It is so well built. And
it is. And this is the scene where the notion of blending animatronics and CGI really comes to show. Because I would say a huge part of why the scene works so goddamn well, why the effects of the movie have hold up so well, is because, as we see here, the blending of the two of the animatronics and the CGI is done really, really sneakily, and the CGI is used rather sparingly throughout the scene.
Of course, when you look at this film now on Blu-ray or something, or if you saw it on the cinema screen, you can tell sometimes, it's a little bit more, blurry when you look at the CGI, or it doesn't quite match with the cinematic quality of the animatronics in a sense. But it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful symbiosis. Velociraptors in the kitchen, that there's nothing that much that doesn't really work here, where you go and look at the scene and you say that, oh, that was crap. I don't believe it. I don't buy it. I mean, not really. Yeah, so frankly, everything works.
Yeah, it does. And you made the notion of that at times you can notice the blurriness of the CGI effects, but also at the times you can really kind of make a note exactly how well they, or how hard they were working on hiding the switches from animatronics to CGI. Once again, the best example, in my opinion, in the film is the nighttime T-Rex attack scene, which kind of starts with from Grant's and Malcolm's car, where they are sitting and they are looking forward, and you see on the right side of of the car, you can kind of see the T-Rex's head as it's speaking, and that's animatronic.
Yeah.
And you kind of pick up on the fact that that's a real effect. That's something that physically exists. Well, that shot is followed by a zoom forward to the next car, the car in front of him, and the T-Rex kind of turns and starts to walk towards that car. That is the car where the kids are stationed. But before the switch happens from animatronic to CGI, there's a like extremely brief, just a few millisecond moment when the image is locked inside of the cabin of Grant's and Malcolm's car. And that's the moment when they switch from animatronic to CGI. There is two things that are at play there. There is the forward zoom to the next car, to the back of the next car, and the kind of a forward motion from the camera, the zoom in, which gives you the feeling of movement and floating forward in the image, and that is followed by now CGI T-Rex slowly walking towards the car in front of you. So there is the camera movement, and then there is also the cleverly hidden switch from one effect to the next. And I would say that's kind of the reason. That's the main reason I came up with on the question why the effects work and still hold up so well.
It's very smartly played. It seems that every time they need a full shot of a dinosaur, they are using the CGI because that's usually the only way to go. When it comes to close-ups, they very smartly use animatronics wherever possible.
Yeah, and when they need kind of a moving dinosaur, when they have to show you that the dino is walking, those are usually the CGI shots.
Yeah, complicated acrobatics like the velociraptor jumping on the table of the kitchen, something like that.
Yep, but once again, they did use animatronics. For example, the T-Rex was a giant ass animatronic. Like it was a huge physical effect which they built and used in the film, and it was actually really a pain in the ass also to use in the nighttime attack scene, because the way that the animatronic had carefully been calculated to work with a set mass, like a certain mass, and it worked perfectly with that mass. But however, the scene happens in pouring rain, meaning that there was also rain pouring on top of the animatronic, and with that rain pouring down on it, the skin that the animatronic had, the rubber skin, it started to soak in the water, and therefore it became heavier and heavier as the shoots went on, raising the weight on the animatronic and causing the animatronic to get these weird seizures where it started to malfunction and kind of started to have a spastic movement, kind of like it would have an epileptic seizure, and and every time that would happen, they would have to stop the shoot and just wait for the animatronic to dry up before it could operate once again properly.
It's quite hilarious material to watch when it's having these seizures, and the team is trying to get the water off with some towels from the top of the T-Rex.
It is. It's kind of during those moments when you see the behind the scenes footage of them fighting with the animatronic, it's kind of hard to believe that that's actually supposed to be the king monster or the king dinosaur of the film.
But when you look at that animatronic creature, every time it brings me like chills just looking at that. And I'm like, the film aside, just looking at the thing on the set with all the crew members. It's so big, and the way that they are able to give it so lifelike elements with all of that remote control. It's beautiful, beautiful.
It is. Instead of CGI, they were originally supposed to use stop motion animation for the scenes where the dinosaurs would have been moving. And
wasn't those used only for like previewing purposes, like how the scene would work out?
No, they ended up using those for the preview scenes, but the original plan was to use stop motion
Oh,
in the film. It got replaced by CGI once the CGI team was able to come to Spielberg and showcase to him that this is we can do this better than the stop motion guys. And Spielberg was defending the stop motion animation pretty long actually. Like the CGI team was really put to the test before Spielberg accepted the usage of CGI over stop motion.
thank God they made the change.
I don't know. I would have kind of been interested in seeing how it would played out with stop motion animation.
Jerkily.
Maybe not. I mean, stop motion animation itself had also advanced quite a lot, and there was this big lineage of expertise and passed down knowledge in stop motion circles. So I don't know. Maybe the jerky movement, the fact that the movement wasn't 100% fluid was the reason why Indian Spielberg went on and switched from stop motion to CGI animation.
Yeah.
But
Well, if any of those test materials of Jurassic Park are anything to go by, it was actually much more fluidy than many like 80s films, but still not fluid enough.
yeah, but I would have been like I would like to see the version where they would have kept the stop motion and to see how that one would have worked. But
Hmm.
that's kind of a where when they first entered the park, the scientists Grant and Malcolm, and Grant makes the notion that they are now out of work, and Malcolm counters that. Don't you mean extinct? That comes from the lead stop motion animator who actually made the notion. I guess I've become extinct when he originally saw the CGI team's work.
And when it comes to the audio engineering as well, this is great stuff. They used for T-Rex's voice a mixture of different animals. Sometimes you hear some crocodiles, there's lion roaring and a baby elephant. And when you start to listen to it, you can pick up these individual voices. But at the same time, it seems what they have done for these voices, they are quite substantial changes. Like it sounds like something that they have an elephant voice, and then they gonna elongate that voice to go longer, and there's some added effects, maybe some reverberation and different stuff layering going on. And it sounds great.
It does. On the notion of sound design, also the Velociraptors.
Yeah,
And their roar is really a state of art. That's a combination of male dolphin and a walrus, if I'm correct.
yeah, walrus for low frequencies, dolphin for high frequencies.
Yep. And that's also is like you kind of don't pick up on it unless you know it. And it's kind of the compound sound effect that they composed for the Velociraptors also. It really kind of really managed to sell itself. Like you really do believe that would be how a Velociraptor would sound like.
Yeah, they become original enough that it's not really a dolphin anymore, I think.
Yep, they do. And those are the moments where you actually see exactly how much craft and ingenuity can go into sound design.
Yeah. So as a change to the book also, Jeff Goldblum's character was given more heroic quality here. So unlike in the book, he's here playing with the torch as well. And then due to this, he gets his leg twisted. The lawyer, of course, is eaten. Most definitely some kind of a Spielberg's personal issue with lawyers.
Most definitely, yeah. The kind of the shift that the lawyer gets, it's kind of obvious that Spielberg has had a bone to pick with lawyers at some point of his career.
Yeah, even though he denies it. I don't believe it for a second.
Even though he denies it. But the lawyer, goddamn, the lawyer character Gerardo actually lives through the book.
Yeah,
and in here he's a cowardly shit who abandons the kids. Which granted, the kids are annoying as fuck, and I too would have abandoned them. But from Gerardo's part, that's an act of fear instead of irritation. But after abandoning the kids, Gerardo also gets eaten in a toilet.
I like the kids all the way up to the point when Lex starts to play with the flashlight. Like, why in the... Or is it Tim who is playing,
I just
playing
can't
with it?
stand them.
But they are both playing with it, and they can't freaking get rid of the light in like 30 seconds. What's going on in this car?
Yeah, that was real goddamn stupid from Lex.
Yeah.
Altogether, I didn't like the kids. I thought that Tim was obnoxious dinosaur fanboy who was just about I read a book, and Lex was a whiny hacker. Like that's what the film makes her out to be. She states that herself, I'm a hacker, and both of them are actually dumb ass rocks. Like Lex fucks it up with the flashlight and almost gets everybody eaten, and Tim can't climb down a fucking tree and a fucking electric fence and can't pass a goddamn shotgun. Like,
Speaking of dated lines, it's a Linux system, I know this.
oh yeah.
And then holds the mouse like she would have never had mouse in her hand before.
Yeah, and of course it's some kind of a graphical 3D user interface. Oh my God.
Built by Jurassic Park team. Yeah.
Yeah, spares no expense.
But yeah, also when it comes to this vision of T-Rex, this has been something that has been challenged, as I understand, by scientists. According to the best data we have, it's looking like T-Rex actually did have a pretty magnificent vision, and it would be very far-fetched to say that T-Rex would be, that he cannot detect any enemies or any biteable objects in the vicinity if they don't move.
Yeah, it also kind of begs the question: how come T-Rex is not just constantly ramming itself against the walls or walking down a cliff or something like that? Because walls and cliff sides are also stationary objects.
And that seems like a very good point. Also, I've always kept wondering, what is this thing, in the book it's described that there is this road, and then there is some kind of a deepening between the road and the gate, and this is where they now drop off with the car. But what is this place exactly? I could never figure it out in the film, because they drop there, and then there's trees. Why is there trees between the road and the gates? Like, what is this place? I can't really kind of understand it. Anyway, it's...
I don't know. Visual purpose.
I suppose. So they planted trees in between this weird place, supposedly. So then there is the car incident. In the book it goes like this, that Tim is all alone in the car and in the tree and gets out of there, no problem. But in the film he is made out to be this kind of a person who is extremely afraid of climbing in the trees and needs a lot of assistance from Dr. Grant.
Yeah, for some odd reason, Tim really hates trees, even though a tree is to thank for the fact that he actually still is alive after falling down like 3 miles inside a goddamn wrecked jeep.
Yeah, that is one of the most unbelievable moments, for sure. Or when it comes to also the characters of Tim and Lex, these have been kind of switched from the original material. Like, Lex was supposed to be, once again, this girl who is not very computer savvy at all. Tim is the guy who is the computer savvy person. But Tim's interest towards dinosaurs is kept intact in the film. Lex was the younger one and Tim was the older one in the book.
Yeah, there was some reason why Spielberg switched the characteristics around.
I think it's nice. I think it's nice to have a girl who is experienced with computers for a change.
Kinda, yeah. Then again, the girl is a hacker.
Linux hacker.
Linux.
Then there is this kitchen scene with Hammond and Ellie. This scene, I found this really weird. I mean, everybody's dying in the park, and then they're just eating some cookies or whatnot in the middle of this table, just waiting for something to happen. They have sent maybe some team to look for the kids, or what was it? Was it even mentioned? I don't know. Anyhow, they are there munching some stuff and kind of having this very meditative talk, very philosophical thoughts. And let me tell you a story, Ellie. When I was a kid, I was running this business. Yeah, it's a weird moment. It's a weird moment.
It's kind of a nice. I like the scene. I like the fact that kind of Hammond is trying to make excuses for himself. He's trying to justify the whole catastrophe that now has happened, and make the case that even though everything went to shit, my intentions were pure.
Yeah, and there's also this whole incident regarding the gates because they have rebooted the system now. Now Ellie goes to switch back some electrical switches in the basement to get systems fully running again. And then there's somebody's hand there eaten by velociraptors. And to this day, I'm not quite sure whose hand it is supposed to be. Because this hunter-gatherer dude, whose name is Muldoon, is still alive at that moment.
Yeah.
And maybe more importantly, what the hell happens to the rest of the crew of Jurassic Park? We know that there's like a bunch of workers there that are not having any kind of major roles. But then we have also Arnold. And doesn't it go like this, that just Arnold just completely disappears from the film at some point? And it wasn't a black hand in the basement, so it's not him either, so he just disappears.
That's supposed to be Arnold, actually.
Yeah?
Like the severed hand is supposed to be Arnold.
But what about this skin pigment and all that?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe Arnold had it enough with this motherfucking skin pigment in this motherfucking dinosaur movie. Yeah, it's not spot on. Actually, the skin pigment on the severed hand, but the hand still is supposed to be Arnold. Arnold is supposed to go to switch on the breakers and turn on the electricity on the facility, and somehow off screen become a dinosaur chow.
And
But
white.
the third act altogether is kind of the weirdest one of the film. Like bunch of different shit just happens during the third act. Arnold's skin pigment changes and he gets eaten, and also everybody's fucking leg starts to somehow gimp out. Like Sattler's right leg apparently has read the script and knows that this is the moment when you just unexplainably have to stop functioning like a proper leg and create some kind of a mystery limb. And the fucking Tim also in the kitchen sequence when he's running away from the Velociraptor, Tim has also the same weird gimbal leg going on.
My favorite problem leg is Ellie's when she's trying to run to the basement and screaming.
Yeah. Like nobody's leg just everybody's leg refuses to work properly on the third act. And for some odd reason it appears that it's with everybody it's the right leg. Everybody's right leg just can't function properly on the final stretch of the film.
Malcolm's leg is functioning that badly in the book that he is actually supposedly dead. Spoilers at the end of the book, but then he mysteriously reappears in the Lost World book. So
yeah. Presumed dead in the original, but revealed to have survived in the second book.
Ta-da! Then there's the electric gate. When they are switching the electricity back on, of course, for dramatic purposes, Tim, who is still hanging on this voltage gate, is counting down to do his jump, and then he manages to do 3, and then the electricity is pushed back on, and he flies like he's on a wire pulled back, and survives.
The team who had managed to climb down the electric fence up until this part, and now he mysteriously freezes down.
Yeah, poor Tim, poor Tim. Those experiences in the car with the T-Rex and now the fence. Jeez.
Yeah, at some point you would simply think that Tim would get it through his thick fucking skull that during those moments when you are in a high place, you better just haul ass and climb down fast.
Even more mysterious is these 2 kids after having these extremely life-changing and horrifying experiences with the, for example, T-Rex. And then it's like 5-10 minutes later, they're hanging in the tree and they're looking at one of these herbivores. And they seem to be still very enthusiastic and laughing and kind of enjoying the moment. Like, let's just think of it as like a big cow. Oh, how cute. At this moment, how I would behave as a kid would be like, Jesus Christ, I'm so done with this. Can we just get the hell out of this island as soon as possible? Or I don't want to see any dinosaurs ever in my life.
Yeah, but that's simply because you can't appreciate the beauty and majesty of nature.
Would that actually follow nature if I had been like mauled to death almost by T-Rex and then T-Rex reappears eating some other dinos? Would the natural this is the gist. Would your natural reaction be like, look how much blood? Nah. And raising your head above this, yeah.
If I would be retarded, brain dead, walking brain damage like Tim, most likely, yeah.
Shots fired.
Not so that I would actually have anything against the brat, but I watch Jurassic Park every now and then, and every single time I just keep on hoping that the goddamn kids would just bite it.
Oof. That's how it always starts.
I'm guessing I'm proper father material.
I was just thinking about that. Totally. Go for it. Now after this impressive father quality speech.
Yeah. If I ever manage to find me a lady who has the proper genetic material on her.
Yeah, so then they get back to the main hall, the entrance to the park, this entrance building, whatever it is called.
Yeah, the main hall, I guess.
Where we have a teleporting T-Rex.
Once a fucking game. Seriously, the dude is quiet as a knight.
Yeah. It's as impressive job as Michael Myers. So,
yeah. Maybe Jurassic Park T-Rex and Michael Myers should team up. We would have T-Rex riding Michael Myers.
I just had a flash of an idea of a new great quality sequel for the Halloween franchise where Michael Myers' DNA would actually be something of a combination of a Tyrannosaurus or frogs, or that would be kind of the mysterious parts of the DNA would be the explanation for his superpowers. Okay, sidetracking there. Tangent. But so the Velociraptors are trying to attack our heroes, but now the hero of the night is actually T-Rex who saves the day and starts munching on the Velociraptors, and fight ensues between these two animals.
I have to hand it to that one lone Velociraptor who, after seeing his friend getting chowed down by T-Rex, still has the bright idea to actually try to tackle down a goddamn T-Rex on his own. Like I don't know if the Velociraptor was being heroic or just suicidal on that moment.
Well, they hunt in packs. Problem was that there was nothing left of the pack. Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, isn't there supposed to be like a third Velociraptor?
Oh, was there? Okay.
It's mentioned. It's mentioned a couple of times in the film that the park has 3 Velociraptors. You never see the third one. if I remember correctly, there is an offhanded comment made that it has been locked behind the door. Yeah, I guess I guess it's supposed to be the Velociraptor that attacks Arnold and eats him up, and then would get locked down into the breaker room by Ellie.
Maybe.
I guess that's supposed to be the third one.
You can't unfortunately see the difference in these velociraptors, whereas you can see it in at least Jurassic World, where they started to get these updated versions of the velociraptors colors.
Yeah, where they start to somehow personalize the stupid lizards and they pinpoint the one velociraptor blue,
who is actually blue.
Yeah, and who becomes some kind of a I don't know, dinosaur Robin of the franchise, like the weird asshole who always in the nick of time in the final fight just appears to help his human compatriots. For some odd fucking reason which I never understood completely, but I guess it's nurture versus nature.
This one shot where this cowboy asshole is riding his motorbike and the velociraptors are on the different sides of that.
Yeah. That shot got picked up in the official posters of the film.
Oh, so it was as well. What a cringe fest. Okay, where were we?
So we are in the closing shots. They are escaping the park.
Yeah.
And Grant finally realizes that he really likes kids because they have been completely fucking useless throughout the film.
As I understand it, originally in this film, there was supposed to be a shot of a flying pteranodon outside of the helicopter window, but they, in the last moments, they changed it to a regular bird species to leave that out. And I think that makes more sense than Sam Neill smiling, looking at the window and seeing this flying prehistoric specimen flying outside of the confines of the island. In one way, it would have made sense, like, okay, life found a way. It fits with that theme, but the smile, no. Yeah, it's a good change.
Yeah, then again, the book overall it makes more notions of the dinosaurs being able to escape the island and to reach the main island.
So it does. So there is supposed to be a kind of a drug, one certain type of a chemical that all of the dinosaurs are supposed to need, and if they don't get that pill in time every 12 hours, then they will die, and in effect will die if they leave the island, but they don't.
Yeah.
And why that is kind of ham-fistedly half explained in The Lost World, but it kind of is happening when the dinosaurs are walking amongst the group that enters the island, and it's kind of forgotten about. It's kind of treated in a way that, the viewer also doesn't give a crap, so let's just move on, type of thing.
Yeah, in the original, that the whole lysine is offhandedly once mentioned by Arnold and never been brought up again. In the book, if I remember correctly, the answer to the lysine question was the fact that the dinosaurs were actually able to find lysine on their own in the food as long as they would actually eat soy and chicken, and that's the one thing that the dinos kind of use to counteract the kind of the genetic kill switch which they have been granted and how they manage to survive outside of the island.
Yeah, lysine. Yeah. In addition, in the book, it doesn't end with the helicopter. There is one very, very short chapter also, which happens in San Jose, where they have taken the people that were on board the helicopter to safety, and they meet again with the Dr. Gutierrez, which is in the beginning of the book, as the doctor who basically finds out about the whole dino infestation that is happening already outside of Isla Sorna. And there is some exchange with with Dr. Grant. But hey, read the book if you want to know more.
Yeah, that the book actually isn't half bad here, and
No,
I would say even the sequel book isn't that bad. I would even go as far as to make the case that the sequel may be even better as a book than it is as a film. The film is Lost World. The movie is kind of so much of a retread of Jurassic Park, whereas Lost World, the book is more kind of it first of all it takes a closer look at the whole scientist aspect, and it pays much more attention to science and scientists being eager to get back on the site B to have a new chance to study the dinosaurs. And even basically the money loving corporates in the book, they are essentially just three guys who are trying to steal some eggs from the island, whereas in the film it's the whole rogue paramilitary. What were they supposed to be? Poachers?
basically cowboys from the engine.
Yeah, Indian cowboys, or like it's a huge goddamn then operation that Indian has going on in the film.
Yeah, that's. But also, The Lost World, it was released in September 95, so it's after the first film and between the two first films. So, could this be kind of a return to Jurassic Park's world because of the success of the film? Most likely.
Yeah, it is. It is. When it comes to the second book, it's kind of it's a curious mess, because the way how the story goes behind the scenes when it comes to the books is that Crichton was working on the first Jurassic Park book when he first met Spielberg, who managed to kind of wheeze out the story from Crichton before the book was finished. So and starts to plan out the film. Crichton finishes the book. Spielberg finishes the film, which is they takes, like mentioned, takes a lot of liberties from Crichton's original novel.
Mm-hmm.
After the success of the film, Spielberg approaches to Crichton and asks Crichton to make another book so that Spielberg himself could have more material for a sequel. Crichton decides to pick up on the offer because the movie was such of a high success. But the problem comes that Crichton is now writing a sequel to his original book, which also at the same time is largely being influenced by Spielberg's first Jurassic Park film, which took a lot of liberties from the original novel. So it's kind of it's kind of a mixed. It's kind of a proto sequel. Kind of it's 50% sequel to the Crichton's book, and it's 50% sequel to Spielberg's film, and it's a really curious piece to actually approach Lost World, the book.
Yeah, okay. Have to get around reading it as well. So you read both of these books at some point. That's great.
I would check out both of them when they originally came out
Wow.
in Finland. Back in the day, the hype was so strong around Jurassic Park that you just kind of had to read them also and had to check out the books.
I myself, I was really impressed with the energy level of this book. It's really hard to put down. In fact, I noticed I was reading already 100 pages in a matter of, I don't know, hour or something. But in the middle part, it's starting to get a little bit of the technobabbly. It's just talking about the background of the creation of the dinosaurs, and there is this ice cream moment with Dr. Wu and Hammond, and I think that was kind of hilarious. They could have kept it in the film. But overall, yeah, very much recommended. Super interesting.
Yeah. Also, something that is interesting is that, well, the Jurassic Park and as a story, it kind of has a lot of ties thematic wise to Crichton's earlier novel with Westworld, which also has the running theme of high-tech amusement theme park where mechanical malfunction happens, and that kind of leads into the theme park itself turning against its visitors. In Westworld, it's a Wild West theme park with robotic cowboys, and one of the cowboys either it's not entirely clear, especially in the film, which is the case. Does the cowboy AI kind of become conscious, or is it simply an error coding that kind of breaks free, but the cowboy turns murderously hostile and starts killing the park visitors? And that's kind of the same case as that you get with Jurassic Park, that there is a high concept science, this time cloning, which has created attractions, this time dinosaurs. There is a mechanical malfunction in the system, which leads into the dinosaurs starting to kill off the visitors of the park.
Okay. Sounds very techno-thrillery.
Yeah. Crichton is pretty good in churning out these kind of a fast pace, somewhat technological and somewhat scientific quotation mark, kind of a thriller novels.
Yeah, I can definitely tell that the guy is doing a lot of research. It's like oozing from the pages that there's a lot of fancy language, and dude knows what he's doing. At least he does a lot of research, yeah.
At least he's not completely lazy.
Yeah.
Like you can have your opinion about Crichton's books. You can have your opinions about exactly how accurate Crichton's science is. As far as I've understood, Crichton himself is not a scientist. He has studied in Harvard, but that's as far as I know, that's as far as his trek into the field of science goes. He's not a professional scientist, and because of that, the science can be kind of all over the place. But at least the dude tries to put up the work to do at least some background work for his books.
Yeah, I just started to think about it. Like, he was enrolled to Harvard Medical School, and he had done something related to ER, but yeah, it's not my field of expertise in any way,
Yeah,
Michael. All right. So yeah, please read it, and definitely the background that he has done kind of makes it seem like it's a very that it's having so much of this background work here done that you can buy what he's writing about. So
Yeah, and I liked a lot about the themes of the story, and I did
yeah,
enjoy a lot of. Well, the film has a couple of scenes. The book has even more, where Malcolm criticizes Hammond, and the scientists all together criticize Hammond and question: Is it actually that sane? Or from Hammond to create a theme park that has living goddamn dinosaurs in it,
yeah,
especially when some of those dinosaurs are omnivores.
yeah. The book also talks way more about the whole chaos theory and everything around it, which kind of ties us the theme of the whole park and why it starts to go the way it does. It's also in the film, but it's not so much in your face in the film.
Yeah, but I on my end, I did enjoy those discussions, and I did enjoy the theme of it, and it's not exactly new. Like the question has been asked countless of times, but essentially, man as a god, and the creation just as an act of will, something that you just can kind of choose to do. You can just choose to create life, and you can just force that creation upon someone. And there is also the kind of that the film does kind of paint the comparison between man and god, and the two creations they both have done in man's part, that is the part, the dinosaurs, and from gods, and that would be the man. And the whole asking was kind of a, was God kind of a, was God under an illusion when he created man and thought that he could somehow be able to control man, and has the tables kind of a turn in a way that man has in a sense killed off God, and is man now being the new God, man now being killed off by his own creation, which would be the dinosaurs.
Yeah, also found it interesting this reference to, which I suppose is factual, that in the 1900s, when they found some species that appeared to be extinct, they started to make up excuses that this can't be extinct, that they made some replacement story for it, because of course God would not kill its creations, so they just made up some story that it's actually some different sized version of something living right now and all that jazz.
Yeah, and some creationists have made the weird notion that there actually, if I remember correctly, the argument goes that in Noah's Ark there are actually were some dinosaurs in the actual ark.
So 8-ton dinosaurs like T-Rex.
Yep, yep.
Wow.
Two of each,
Of course.
of course.
Unless they had frog DNA.
No. That would be way too scientific and way too technical for creationists.
Yeah, the Bible, the famous techno thriller. Very detailed and deep scientific discussions there. Why can't I get my DNA discussions ever in the Bible? It's so monotonous sometimes. Okay. Favorite performance?
Oh, I guess that has to go. The actor, Sam Neill, for playing Dr. Grant. Even though I do love Goldblum a lot in the film, but I don't know, for some reason Sam Neill has always tugged my heartstrings.
Yeah.
I have a soft spot for the dude.
The guy who once screen tested for James Bond.
And was not picked.
Yeah, that's probably for the best.
Yeah, Sam Neill perhaps never would have worked that well as Bond.
I didn't see it at all, honestly. Jeff Goldblum for me, because of he has quite magnetic screen presence here. I like the way that he's kind of there, but at the same time he's kind of not, because it appears that at the same time when he's there he doesn't really care. This kind of indifference for everything, and that makes him the great ability to crack jokes at every situation. It seems that he doesn't really mind so much any of the situations that he's thrown in, or not that, but yeah, it's kind of hard to do a psychoanalysis here right now at this hour. But favorite scene?
That would be the nighttime T-Rex attack.
Yeah, of course it would be. That's the first thing that I also think when I'm thinking about Jurassic Park. That's the highlight scene of the film.
It is. It is like that. I would say to everyone who has seen the film, that is the scene that truly sells you the movie.
Yep. Of course, the sequels up the ante then, and there is more Tyrannosauruses and more of everything. But it doesn't have the same effect. It just doesn't have. Sometimes less is more.
It doesn't have the same build-up.
Yeah. Favorite quote?
Well, this harkens back to the whole God creation theme, but it's a combination from Ian Malcolm and Ellie Sattler. God creates dinosaurs, God destroys dinosaurs. God creates man, man destroys God. Man creates dinosaurs. Dinosaurs eat man, woman inherits the earth.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I ever really got that, but I always laughed.
Well, it essentially it is basically the movie in a nutshell. Because
Well, yeah.
the ones who, in the end, inherit the Earth, inherit the island, are the dinosaurs, who originally were female and kind of found the way to cheat out their creator, the man.
This is a pretty good. Find Nedry, check the vending machines. But I didn't give this much thought beforehand. But
the hostility that poor Nedry has to suffer from Hammond is kind of off the fucking charts.
well, I always chuckle at this point. This kind of humor I really love in this film. Hammond, after careful consideration, I've decided not to endorse your park. So have I. Favorite kill?
That would be Moodon, the wildlife expert they have, being chown down by the raptor.
I think for me it's the lawyer, slimy lawyer.
You too have something against lawyers.
Yeah. I sort of have sometimes very anarchist tendencies. First shot that comes to mind. T-Rex behind the gate with his, little whatever thingy-wingy trying to get rid of the gate.
To me, it's actually the closing T-Rex shot, the final shot we get T-Rex when he's in the main hall, and actually that whole banner is coming down.
It's great. Yeah. What took you out of this film?
I have three things that took me out. None of them took me out completely, but like if I would have to pinpoint something, this would be mine. First of all, there are the kids, which I didn't care for. Then there is the lawyer, who I think got shat upon maybe a bit too much. And the final and the third one is the comedically fat nuttery.
Okay. I always felt that the third part of the film was always like clearly the weakest part of the film. When there is this stuff in the basement and then the Hammond and Ellie sitting and drinking tea or whatever and having their cookies. I mean, it has some great qualities in this scene, but every time I watch this film, it's around this Hammond Ellie sweet moment when I start to kind of maybe a little bit wiggle off back to the refrigerator or something. And it's not as tight as the rest of the film. That's just the way I feel. Yeah. What pulled you in?
The scale, really. Like the pure unedited scale that this film has.
Yeah, looks like you're in a Spielberg roller coaster once again. What pulled me in? Well, dinosaurs, T-Rex, Velociraptor. And gotta give it to them that the characters are extremely enjoyable here, not just the dinos. The characters are very good. It's starting to get a little bit slippery slopey in The Lost World.
Yeah, in The Lost World, basically pretty much the only one who can still hold up the torch and work through that film is Goldblum.
Yeah. I wonder what happened there. Were they supposed to get some Neill also on board, but then he was like, I don't know, and maybe I want like a double the pay or something.
Maybe. Who knows what happened with Lost?
Yeah.
I would believe that is a question which is even today mystery even to Steven Spielberg himself. Every now and then he checks out Lost World and is thinking to himself like, what the hell? What was I doing?
Well, if it weren't for the quite inventive trailer car stuff, how it kind of ups the ante, the tension all the time in that scene, or how he builds tension until the end of the film when T-Rex enters the city. If there would not be kind of this obvious Spielbergian moments, I would say that this is not a Spielberg film. It's one of his weaker ones, I would say.
It most definitely is. There's some really great moments, but there's also some of the really bafflingly terribly bad Spielberg moments in it, like for example the fucking gymnastics scene.
Oh yeah, that kicking Velociraptor out of the house.
Yeah, like that That was bad. That's even today. That's downright cringe material.
That is. Maybe we should do like a cringe material the episode at some point. What would you cut from the film? What would you change?
Maybe I would touch upon my three picks that took me out a little. The kids, the nursery, and the lawyer. But I don't know how I would kind of try to mess with them, because it's even though they did bother me a bit when looking up when watching the film, it it didn't still raise in me this outright hate and this blind need to just get them removed from the film. I can still very much enjoy the film even with them in it. I just think that those three are kind of the weaker aspects, the weaker elements of the movie.
You would not make a successful Jew. For me, I always felt that the basement scene when Ellie is trying to switch on the confinements, the fences once again, that scene is a little bit overlong, and we have had these change scenes up to that point already so many times that I think it could be a little shorter, it could be a little faster moving in that part. Otherwise, yeah, I've been whining about this third half of the film, or third part of the film, whatever you want to call it. Some changes could be made there. But you really know, you're watching Jurassic Park. When?
When the nature finds a way, most likely in the bedroom.
You really know you're watching the Jurassic Park when you hear John Williams playing and you hear the T-Rex doing his trademark noise, which even I can't emulate, even though I'm so a world-class material voice artist.
Yeah, I mean, come on, man. From the two of us, you are supposed to be the one who doesn't sound like a screaming bird.
Oh my god, you still remember these things?
I will. Someday I will actually tattoo that into my palm.
Oh boy. Well, the sexy radio voice is now asking the three adjectives to describe the film.
Mine would be groundbreaking, because it most definitely was. It's breathtaking, because it even today still manages to be, and most definitely exciting.
Yeah, mine would be prehistoric, Spielbergian, and very much a Hollywood movie. Hollywoodian, I guess. There has been some criticism about the title of the film, Jurassic Park, because, of course, the dinosaurs existed during the Mesozoic era, which consists of Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous periods. But Jurassic, of course, sounded the best. Just like the Velociraptors sounded the best. Even though, as I understand it, the designs for the Velociraptors were of another dinosaur, but they wanted to name it Velociraptor because it sounds cool.
Well, you have to hand it to them. Velociraptor most definitely does sound cool.
That it does. Did you look at your watch during the film?
No, I still actually haven't looked at my watch when watching Jurassic Park.
Yeah, no.
You would think that at some point you would just kind of get tired of the film and you would start checking out your watch after repeated viewings, especially with the goddamn kids in it. But I don't know. Something in the film just still even today holds your attention and makes sure you are paying attention to the film.
Yeah. It's the characters that make it acceptable also that the T-Rex is being reappearing in the end of the film over and over and over. If there were some kind of I don't know, the Jurassic World level of characters or kind of supporting characters that you would be watching, and then T-Rex would do its attack for the fifth time, it would not work. So I forgive it. But what's the next question? Would it be, Henrik, would you recommend Jurassic Park?
I most definitely would, from the bottom of my heart. It still holds up. It's still extremely enjoyable. And it's a movie where you can every now and then find, even today, new things.
This is one for the ages, something that you really had not seen before, and holds up fantastically well today. Also, it is the best Jurassic Park movie by far. Most definitely recommended. It's everyone's responsibility to watch this film. And I was quite surprised that I see this 8.1 out of 10 in IMDb. I believe I have seen it with a way lower score, but I can't see any historic score. Maybe you can find it somewhere. But I have a theory, Henrik, that when the Blu-ray discs started to appear, also the median of ratings in IMDb rised considerably. I think the experience has changed for some people in that way that now it's even more of a ooh ah experience when you can see it in widescreen and see all the fancy pixels. It's my theory. I may be wrong, but I'm willing to stick by it. That's about it from this week.
Yeah.
Of course, naturally you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, and you can follow what we're up to. I think there's gonna be a great lineage of films once again this year. We have already something very juicy waiting for you for next week, so I'm glad to be moving forward. Okay, but see you next week.
Until then. Holy fucking shit, it's a dinosaur, Jesus fucking Christ. Oh my fucking god, look a dinosaur, Jesus fucking Christ. Holy fucking shit, it's a dinosaur, Jesus fucking Christ. Oh my fucking god, look a dinosaur.